views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Merry meet and merry part, bright the cheeks and warm the heart. For tread the circle thrice about, to keep unwelcome spirits out. Bide within the law you must, in perfect love and perfect trust. Mind the threefold laws you should, 3 times bad and 3 times good. These 8 words the read fulfill, and ye harm none, do what ye will.
Welcome to Stirring the Cauldron on the Para X Radio Network. And now, here's your host, Marla Brooks.
Merry meet everybody and welcome. My guest tonight is Judika Illes, and we'll be talking about her latest book, which is a compendium, and her new Protection Spells Oracle deck. Now, she's a lifelong student, lover, and practitioner of the magical arts, the author of numerous books devoted to spells, spirits, and witchcraft, including the best-selling Encyclopedia of 5,000 Spells and the Encyclopedia of Spirits. She's a certified aromatherapist and has been a professional tarot card reader for over 3 decades. Now, we're always happy to get comments and questions from the chat room. So if you're listening to the live show and you want to join us, come over to paraxradionetwork.com. And all that being said, hi, Judika, and welcome.
Thank you, Marla. It's a pleasure to be back.
Oh, I'm so happy because I got a really new book, yours, and I got the new cards, yours. And yeah, I'm really, really happy about that.
Oh, I'm glad.
So, and as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, we were doing a double header tonight, talking about your latest book, which is Witches, a Compendium, and the Protection Spell deck.
Right.
So let's get started. We'll begin with the book.
Sure.
Yeah, it's so good. Anyway, if you manage to get histories and mysteries and famous and infamous witches and fiction and all that stuff, what's the backstory of you tackling a well, it is kind of completed endeavor?
Well, I got to tell you, I don't think I haven't written the subtitle for any of my books, so I can't tell you that. But authors don't necessarily. The stuff that is between the covers is what the author is really, really responsible for.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody described it as a love song to witches, and I thought that was a really good description. It's a celebration of witches for people like me who love all things witch or who identify as witches, who are witches. And I also wanted to share that love maybe with people who are finding out about witches or maybe have been a little apprehensive about witches. We get a lot of bad press. So
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to share the good stuff about witches.
The interesting stuff too.
Yeah.
But you know what? If we pick up the Oxford English Dictionary or the Encyclopedia Britannica or some other reputable reference, the definition of a witch is pretty much the same. And it's like a person who practices witchcraft, especially of a malevolent and harmful nature, and they have magic powers and evil ones and stuff. So where did witches go from wise women and the healers and midwives to get a bad rap?
My theory, and this is my theory,
Mm-hmm.
and witches getting a bad rap, I would say the last truly magic-friendly society was that of ancient Egypt. So people will tend to blame Christianity, but actually pagan Rome was very, very witch unfriendly, and you can date the first true witch trial to pagan Rome. So, that's only partially true. My theory is that witches are independent thinkers. We are independent people who like to make our own decisions, like to figure out things for ourselves. We like to know. That's the definition. The word Wicca derives from an Anglo-Saxon word for knowledge. It's related to wise. And words that are synonymous with witch in other languages also have the same meaning, related meanings. And so I think that any kind of authority, whether it's a secular authority, a government authority, a religious authority, the more authoritarian you get, the less you like witches. And it's also, attitudes towards women. Uh, can women be free and independent, or do they have to, walk 10 paces behind and keep their eyes down? And that is literal. There was a stereotype in Ireland, and, not that long ago, 100, 200 years ago, that you could, how do you pick out the witch? There's all sorts of stereotypes for what people expect a witch to be. And some of them are in the book. You can, yeah. Unfortunately, I do, some of those stereotypes actually apply to me. I am the person complaining there's too much salt in the food. But one of the stereotypes is they look people in the eye. They look men in the eye. They're too bold. So, how independent can a woman be? Can a woman be completely free and equal, or does she need to be, that feminine power doesn't need to be suppressed? So it's not a simple one answer and we can fix it, but uh, witches and the magical arts and sorcery and esoterica, we have gotten bad press for centuries, when in fact we're not the perpetrators.
Yes, we're standbys.
We're not the ones burning people at the stake.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. And when what was Pope, um, oh my God, the fourth, the innocent Pope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the innocent folk.
Yeah, he's the one that got the guys to write the book about
The
how to
Malleus
kill a witch. And
Maleficarum, yeah,
yeah,
the Witch
yeah,
Hunter's Malleus, which was next to the Bible at one time, the absolute bestseller in Europe for a long time.
yeah. You heard that.
So
And it
people who were witch hunters were reading it. That was like at a time when people didn't have bookshelves full of books. That was the book that people had in their house.
right, a great one. Uh-huh. Sure. It's all on us.
But a lot of the things in that, I mean, and I've read it, you can buy it, and there are
Hmm.
other witch hunters manuals, but I mean, a lot of it is, how do you identify a witch?
Hmm. And that's difficult because wait a minute, I was going to say
Well,
something.
well, people thought it was easy. I mean, and that's how you get witch trials. People just decided that, well, you're doing such and such, therefore, different things in different places at different times.
Hmm.
But people were very sure that they could, can you pick out the witch in the crowd? Of course, the really good witch, and I don't mean good like Linda the Good, but the really, skilled witches were the ones you couldn't identify. But, the rank and
Hmm.
file, you could pick them out.
Yeah. And those ones that aren't and bragging about it, they got in trouble.
Yep.
They opened
That's
their
right.
mouth.
It
Uh-huh.
doesn't matter. The thing is, it doesn't matter. If you are in a witch unfriendly society or a witch hunting society, it doesn't really matter whether you are a witch. It matters whether people think you're a witch.
Hmm. That's true. It's scary, actually.
Yeah, it's frightening. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's still true. I mean, having a conversation like this publicly would have been illegal
Mm-hmm.
in the English speaking world not that long ago, but it's not now. But there are still places in the world where it is not safe to identify as a witch or have someone think you're a witch, whether or not you are one.
Yeah. Yeah. There's still witch hunts all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, they're third world
Well,
countries or stuff, but
well, in some places, in I mean, it's in rural parts of India, certain parts of Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Middle East. And
at one time, there were witch hunts in Saudi Arabia. I don't know if
yeah,
there still are.
yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah, it's crazy because it makes people think that we're, I don't know what, they make it up. But I was always taught that there were many types of witches,
Sure.
and some people just do claim it because they want to be, oh, look at me, I'm a witch. So
Yeah.
there really isn't any no
Well,
end of
and you know
types.
what people, I mean, which is a compendium is a normal size book
Hmm.
because I mean, I have sort of these gargantuan books and I
Yes,
have
you
my,
do.
this is, which is a compendium is my mini encyclopedia. I have a book called the Encyclopedia of Witchcraft. And one
Hmm.
of the things in discussion is the different things that people think a witch, there's like a badly constructed sentence, a witch is, who is a witch? What is a witch? And it's not the same for everyone, even though it's that one word and whatever, I find that whatever definition people have, what's
Hmm.
your definition of a witch? There's an assumption that it's shared, but it's a very complicated triggering topic for many people, and they don't all think witches are the same.
Hmm.
So, people will ask me, and I write this in the Encyclopedia of Witchcraft, are you a witch? And I always ask them, well, what do you think a witch is?
Hmm.
Because if you think a witch is someone who steals and eats babies,
Hmm.
no, I am absolutely not that kind. No, you have
Hmm.
to be sure, because are they asking you because they want witchcraft lessons? Are they asking you because they're going to go, oh yeah, me too, or that's great? Or are they asking you because they're planning to shoot you if they think, the answer is yes.
Hmm.
So you do have, you have to be vigilant. Even today, even in 2025, you have to be vigilant about that, because there are plenty of, for whatever, and it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't really matter to me why they're anti-witchcraft. That's not my problem. That's
Hmm.
their problem. My problem is, staying safe. And I would say for the witchcraft community, that's our priority, staying safe and being protected. Why people have crazy concepts about other people, and deciding that they're the judge and the jury and they're going to take care of you, that that
Hmm.
that is, we just need to stay away from those people.
Hmm. Hmm. Amazingly so. But in the book, you said that, there's so many different types, but you
Right.
said some that all witches have things in common. Well,
Yes.
what, talk about that a little bit?
I think that what witches have in common, for it is the desire to know. It is curiosity. It's the cat, the curious cat.
Hmm.
And witches also, they want to know. They we're really smart people. We're intelligent people, and we want to understand and we want to know. And I think the desire to live harmoniously with the rhythms of the earth. And that is something that we do have in common, even
Hmm.
if we have many differences also. We're not a monolithic community, and we don't all believe or practice in the same way. But we do share certain, I think, ways of living, certain ways of being, certain ways of relating to the atmosphere. Um, and that's pretty crucial.
Hmm. Now, I got a question from somebody this afternoon, and then now in the chat room, it's kind of the same thing. So, the one that first goes is, what's the difference between a Wicca and a witch? And the
Okay.
one that came in, because you might want to blend this, what's between Wicca and a Strega, for example?
Okay. Well, let me do Wicca and a witch first, because
Okay.
that's because those are both English language.
Yeah.
Um, some people, I mean, and it's all right. There's no wrong with this. There's just different ways of approaching this. You know, some people consider witchcraft a religion, and some people consider it a practical art, a magical art. Um, Wicca, Wicca. I mean, going back to Old Anglo-Saxon, it is the root word for witch, and it is
Mhm.
the religion that is generally, the general belief is that it was founded by Gerald Gardner. When the witchcraft laws were finally abolished in the UK, because you couldn't publish about witchcraft before that, and we're talking the 1950s, we're not talking 1750s. But in
Mm.
the 1950s, they repealed the last witchcraft law, and Gerald Gardner was able to publish a nonfiction book about witchcraft, and he crafted a religion based on older traditions. And whether or not he created it, or it is a continuation of older faiths, that's, I mean, I don't argue with people have very strong feelings about this, but it is a religious tradition, and Wicca with the capital W. Witchcraft is any kind of practice of the magical art. You don't have to be a Wiccan to be a witch. And I know Wiccans who don't approve of spell casting.
Mhm.
So, there are differences. There are people who are Wiccans and witches. There are people who are Wiccans or witches. But that is the difference between the two. Strega is an Italian word. I mean, it derives. I mean, if you take a look at the Encyclopedia of Witchcraft, there's a dictionary in there. It's related to other words in other languages, Romance languages for a witch, and it derives from the word for screech owl, a strix, and Strega is an Italian tradition of witchcraft. I mean, and there are people who are not Italian who identify or practice, as being a strega. But that is what that is. I will say one other thing. I'm not a young person, and I remember from the 70s, a lot of people think witch is a bad word.
Mhm.
And it was a time when people were considering what words to describe different people as. And so there are people who to this day will use the word Wiccan. They're not using it in terms of Gardnerian Wicca. They think it is a more polite word for witch. So, I mean,
Mhm.
nothing with witchcraft is uncomplicated. Everything is complicated in its depths and nuances. But every once in a while, it's now more common for somebody who says they're a Wiccan, or are you a Wiccan, to be talking about the faith that follows the wheel of the year. And maybe, Marla, we should be talking about your book here, your forthcoming book. but
Uh-oh.
um I can say, having read it, it's a great book, and it's I think a needed book, and that will talk more about the wheel of the year and the practices that center around that. But there are occasionally people who just, uh, which is like the equivalent of the word that rhymes with it, and they don't want to say it, so they'll say that instead, because that's a polite word.
Mhm. Okay, so you know me well enough to know that when I get a book, I look through the table of contents first and things jump out at me, right? So here's the chapter that caught my eye, and it was Animal Witches and Witches Animals. Now, I
Right.
know the animal witches are part that of that. It drew me in. So animals can be witches?
That is the belief in many cultures, that not all, in particular in certain areas, they can be witches. So here's the thing: a lot of people believe that witches can transform into animals. Like in Hungarian folk belief, um, if you see if you see black cats walking down the street, is it really a cat, or is it a witch who has transformed into a cat? But the default, the base is, is the human form. The cat is the transformed form. But there are cultures where it's the opposite. In parts of Africa, the hyena is the witchcraft animal, the ultimate witchcraft animal. But is the hyena a transformed person? Because it might be. Or can that hyena who has magic powers transform into a person with a hyena as the base form, the original form? And you'll see this also in Japan, where you have certain cats, not all cats. Some cats are just cats, um, and other cats might have developed, especially with age, they develop magical power and skill. It is someone who can transform into a person. Allegedly, the telltale signs with the Japanese cat witch is, they look like an old grandma, but it's oh grandma, but they're unable to actually eat with utensils. They have to eat like a cat with the face in the dish.
Mm, okay. I have the napkin handy. Yeah, that'll work.
I
Um,
tried with this book. I tried with this, witchcraft is a ancient and universal and global phenomenon. It's
mhm,
not just a lot of books, and I mean, I don't come from this background, so it was something that I felt very left out as a young person learning about when I was learning about witchcraft and reading witchcraft books. A lot of books in the English language assume witchcraft is just Northern European or Western European, and that's it.
mhm,
Even though, other places, Germany had, Switzerland had among the worst witch trials during the witch panic era, but somehow people think that, witchcraft ends with like Northern and Western Europe, and that's not true. Witchcraft, as we in a recognizable form, goes back thousands of years before, the boundaries of modern nations, and you will
mhm,
find it everywhere in the world, whether or not people are proud of it, whether or not people celebrate it or are afraid or whatever it is. It's everywhere with variations. And I wanted to represent that. I didn't want people to feel the way I did when I was 15. I don't want
mhm,
people to feel left out. It's not exclusionary. Witchcraft is something that we can all share in, because we those traditions they're common to humanity.
mhm.
Even if
Eh,
we're not all doing it the same way.
yeah, like brujeria down here in Southern
Sure.
California, and the boderas. This,
When I read 5,000 Spells, I got so, when it was initially published, I still get a lot of mail, but I had so much interesting mail. And one of the things I was people from the Balkans and people from
mhm,
Eastern, I can't talk, Eastern European nations. There were, I didn't insist on casting a circle before every spell, because that
mhm,
is very much a Western European, Northern European thing. It is not necessarily part of their tradition. I stuck to the spells, not the whatever ritual you do before, that's up to you. But the spells themselves, I sort of isolated them. And people were very happy to see that, because they almost never saw that. It was just this assumption that everybody does things the same, but we don't.
yeah. And great grandma Sophie was from East Europe,
Yeah,
yeah. And I wish I had her book, but well,
I
that
wish
goes a
you
whole
did
nother,
too.
yeah,
Yes.
that would be
Well,
funny.
odds are she wasn't a circle caster, because
Hmm?
that's not, odds are she wasn't casting a circle. I mean, she might have been casting circles for other purposes, but
Yeah.
not that sort of before every spell to, the circle is a protective device to
Hmm.
keep other beings out.
Hmm.
That is not part of that tradition.
Yeah. They all have traditions
Yeah,
and you know, some people, well, like Jason Miller,
yeah,
he goes all over the world to
yeah,
to do those things, to learn,
yeah,
Tibet and all these things. And
yeah,
he's really good about this. We kind of not doing it that much, but boy, I admire him very much
Yeah, me
so.
too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Got a question from the chat room.
Yeah.
What is your opinion on covens?
I used to be in one.
One
My
was?
opinion on covens, I think if you have a, that depends on the person. Um, if you have a coven that supports you and you are somebody who likes to work with a group of people, and there are traditions that insist on working with covens, then that's great. If you are a solitary practitioner, that's also great. I'll say the one problem with it's not a problem anymore because we have Zoom. We can do things virtually. We have technology that we didn't have 20 years ago, 30 years ago, or more. But it used to be if you were living in the middle of nowhere and you need a 13-person coven, well, you have to find those other 12 people. And
Mm-hmm.
what if you live in a town where you're the only little witch? That's a problem. So
Yeah.
that was prohibitive for some people, but or some circumstances. I There is a book by Christine Cunningham Ashworth called
Mm-hmm.
Scott Cunningham, The Path Taken. And
That's a great book.
Christine is Scott's younger sister. And this book is a combination of Christine's own memories of growing up with Scott and also contributions from other authors. And there is a great contribution from Dorothy Morrison,
Mm.
who talks about her progression and how she, found a coven, didn't find a coven. And if that's a topic that interests you, I really recommend it. It's a really great book because it has to suit your magical needs. It has to suit your personal needs. I used to have a coven. We had an unconventional coven, a 4-person coven. We were on 4 different sides of the country,
Mm.
and we did it via attunement, which means that you have to all tune in simultaneously. We had like different time zones. If anybody's a member of the Fellowship of Isis, they'll also do attunement, which I am. Um, they'll do attunement rituals. We did our rituals by synchronizing our clocks and being aware of time differences. I was in California at the time, and somebody else was in New York, and somebody was in Chicago. So we had to, really, really fine tune that, which is much easier now than it was, in the 90s. But
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of ways of working witchcraft, and as long as it's working for you and your group, that's what you need. You need to find what works for you. It's
Mm-hmm.
very individual, very personal.
Yeah. Some people just don't play well with others, and some covens, like any group,
Yeah,
one wants to be the head one, and and
sure.
then there's fighting, and yeah.
But
So,
I also know people who've been in covens for years, decades, and they
hmm,
have wonderful experiences. So,
yeah.
if you're lucky and you have a coven, I mean, our coven sort of fell apart because 2 of the members are relatives, and when that went south, so did everything else. But, and now unfortunately, two, 2 of the original members have passed away. So, it sort of crumbled. But there are so many ways of working, and the thing with magic and witchcraft is it's meant to make your life better. It's
Hmm.
there to make your life better because life is hard, and there
Yeah.
are so many problems out there, and witchcraft is intended to help you alleviate those problems and empower you and bring you joy and help you solve your issues. It's not supposed to be another problem.
Hmm.
So it's supposed to be empowering. It's supposed to be fulfilling. You should feel like you're in your power, and you should be with other people who help you be in your power and don't diminish you.
Hmm.
So, I would say that's the criteria.
Yeah, that makes good sense. Now, I just want to talk about a couple things because we're going to go to commercial, and when we come back, we're going to talk about protection spells.
Okay.
But you've got some really good tips
Yeah.
for witches.
I used to
Um,
be a travel consultant.
there you go. But
Yeah.
when I read it, I mean, the table of contents, it says, that I immediately thought about brooms. And
Yeah.
then that said, my friend Sam does the master class on packing her potions, for travel
Yeah.
bags.
Yeah.
But actually, these are places that people can go, and that's a really
Yeah.
nice add-on.
Yeah. Yeah. There are plenty of people, places. And the places close to home. I mean, there are places around the world, but
Hmm.
also, we have the Buckland Museum right here in Ohio.
Yeah.
It's a great
Yes.
place to go.
Hmm. Yeah. So, and then, if anybody's going to get curious, she has a chapter called Are You a Witch? But we're going to leave that hanging because, we can't tell everything. I mean, she's also got the Cavalcade of Witches, which is really good. And I mean, there's just so much in this book, and it's nice. It's
I
something.
have loved witches since the moment I knew there was such a thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
I came into this world loving witches. And, I'm always with the witch. Hansel and Gretel, it scared me because those children were terrible to the witch. And I
Uh-huh.
wasn't
I
afraid for
go,
the kids. Um,
me too. That's weird, huh?
yeah,
Uh,
no,
yeah.
we were seeing it as it was.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, that's what this book got. It's an expression of my love.
It's interesting too. I mean, it's
Thank
not
you.
like not like your book in class or anything like that. I mean, it's interesting from A to Z. And yeah, so anyway, we'll be back. We're going to conjure up a few commercials right now, and we're going to take a quick break and see you in a bit.
Don't go away. There's more Stirring the Cauldron with Marla Brooks right after these important messages. What if everything you thought you knew about time, free will, and reality was wrong? Unified reality theory dares to bridge science, philosophy, and religion to uncover the true nature of existence. Controversial? Yes. Mind expanding? Absolutely. Find out what everyone will be talking about. Join the conversation now. Unified Reality Theory, now available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Get your copy today, because reality isn't as simple as it seems.
Demons, vampires, werewolves, skinwalkers. All of this and more. Sunday nights at midnight on the Staring Into the Abyss radio show. Come, get lost with us.
Hi, Barry McGuire here, inviting you to come along with Marla Brooks and let's start stirring the cauldron together on Para X.
Stirring the Cauldron with Marla Brooks, Thursdays at 9 o'clock on Para X. Welcome back to Stirring the Cauldron. Once again, here's your host, Marla Brooks.
And welcome, he said. I welcome back too. Our guest tonight is Judika Illes, and we're talking about a little while ago her book on the Witch Compendium, and now we're going to shift gears and get a new thing about protection spell deck. Geez, oh my God, the cat just jumped on me, and anyway, his dish was empty. Um, but
How
it's
dare you?
protections. Yeah, it's a book that is so cute. I mean, a deck. It's tiny. It's wonderful. I pulled cards for me as soon as I got it. And anybody in the chat room, if you would like to have a pull, then just let me know because these are really interesting. So where did it come from? What is it for? Go for it.
Well, this is Wiser Books has and full disclosure, I'm an editor of Wiser Books. They're what I mean, I publish my work through Wiser Books and other publishers, but I work as an editor there. And they have a series of mini decks, and they're cute and they're affordable, and you can put them in your pocket, in your purse. There's a whole bunch of them, and I hope to do more someday. But the creative director and I decided to do a deck of spell cards, protection cards, and um, she hooked me because she had already started designing the backs of the cards, which are not identical. Um, they're full of moons and snakes, two of my favorite things. So, I kind of had to do it. So their protection, it's uh it's a small deck. There's no book in it. Everything is on the cards, 36 cards. The cards are beautiful. I mean, the
Yes,
colors are
they are.
beautiful. The moons are they're golden, just absolutely gorgeous.
Hmm.
They're I mean, you could use them as an oracle deck. They're each it is a primer on protection. If you think of cards as one of Rachel Pollack's books, she describes the tarot cards as an unbound book in which you can rearrange the pages. And I've always liked that. I thought that was such an interesting way of looking at it. And it is a little unbound book on protection magic. And you can use it. People have started telling me it was just published this week. Monday was June 2nd. It was its birthday. This is a little Gemini deck, so I think it will be communicating clearly with the snakes for the year of the snake. So it is, timely. You can use it as flashcards to learn about protection magic. You can do a card pull to see, not to everybody needs protection. I don't want it to be a scary thing. I don't want it that you pull a card and it suggests what kind of protection you need, and you go, oh my God, this is going to happen to me. No, the cards are here to be our allies and to guide us, and maybe to give us warnings about things we could do to keep ourselves safe. It's not a gloom and doom. Oh my God, this is going to happen. You can they are spell cards and they're beautiful. I mean, they're 12.95. They are so affordable. So
Yeah.
I like that you could, if you wanted to take a card and put it in a charm bag, or if you wanted to put it on a candle or under a candle, or do kind of spell casting with it, you don't have to worry. Like if you get the $50 deck and you lose a card and oh no, or if a card like, too much shuffling and the card rips and oh my God, now I have to get another deck. This one it's affordable, and I wanted that to be the message of the cards to everything in the cards. It's very it's not that the material is simple, because there are things in there that a seasoned practitioner will find interesting and useful and not boring, but I wanted to keep it affordable. It's
Hmm.
an affordable deck, and I wanted to have magic that wasn't you didn't have to, it's the money is bad out there right now, and everybody's afraid of people are afraid financially. They're, what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Everything has gotten so expensive. So I wanted this to be something that you could use, a practical deck. More full disclosure, I have my son is in the sixth house, and I am a practical person. And, eh, this practical magic that you could, if you're traveling, you could stick this in your purse, your suitcase. You get to, a new location, you're in a hotel room, if you're nervous, if you need something to soothe your fears, you can pull a card and it'll give you some suggestions. And I hope it helps people sort of get a sense of the rhythm and logic of protection magic, the basics of protection magic, because then you can do it yourself.
Yeah. And there's so many things. I mean, um, like, wait a minute, I'm going to open it up because I was thinking of something. But you said that some people just can do a card pull for no
Sure,
reason, just to find whatever,
sure,
but other people can have something in mind.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I think especially if you're feeling uneasy or you're nervous, and for whatever reason the cards are, they're your allies and they can help suggest things that maybe will set your mind at ease or make you feel that you're in charge of. You never want to feel helpless. You want to feel that you're in control of your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it's all spells, but people are going to say, oh, we don't want spells all the time. But
Well,
there's things like, I'm just going through it for a minute. There's talking. I loved Medusa, by the way.
yeah,
Um,
I do too.
and
there's
then,
there's
but
a, there's a lot of things I love in this. This is, I write encyclopedias, and encyclopedias can't be personal. You have to
mhm,
represent a lot of different traditions, a lot of different, you have to represent whatever's out there. But this is fairly personal. It's, I love Medusa. I collect hand-shaped amulets. There's a lot of myself in this one.
hmm and then there's something an aloe vera protection,
Yeah.
and so that's kind of simple. Um, So there are all kinds of different things. The salt and pepper protection powder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
That's
think.
the one I've gotten the most response to.
Oh, really?
Yeah, people like that one. The
Wow.
salt and pepper protection is, salt and pepper. The thing is, we lose sight of what is powerful, because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things that used to be treasured and precious are
Mm-hmm.
now, they're common, and it's very easy to take it for granted. Even something like frankincense, it used to be so rare. You can
Mm-hmm.
go to Whole Foods and buy
Yeah.
essential oil of frankincense. I mean, maybe it's not the
Yeah.
finest frankincense, but you can get it. It's accessible. And
Mm-hmm.
salt and pepper used to be treasures, and now, uh, you know, people go to fast food places and they toss salt and pepper packets in your bag, and people throw them away, which, it's unlucky to throw away salt, first of all. But this is taking those packets of salt and pepper and putting it to good magical use, because when you're traveling, when you need a quick fix, they're very powerful.
Yeah. And it's interesting because salt is very important in some things.
Sure,
You put them in the windowsill, the door of the windowsill,
sure.
and pepper
Pass the
is.
circle.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
pepper is something that's really spicy and, not necessarily bad, right?
Oh,
I would.
well, I love pepper. I mean, I do. I mean, I love pepper, but I don't eat a lot of salt, but I love pepper and spicy foods. So pepper, all kinds of pepper. But
Mhm,
pepper, for people who, if you, pepper is also, I mean, every natural thing has a magical power. And if you've
mhm,
ever made hot foot powder, then, you know, or you use pepper for all kinds of spells,
mhm,
pepper, pepper to make things move.
mhm,
And sometimes the salt to protect you and the pepper to shake things up a little bit and get whatever is bothering you to move.
mhm. Yeah. Um, Again, if anybody wants to have a reading, a puller,
I mean,
um,
it's a deck that you can kind of do what you wish with. It's protection magic, protection spells, and as with witchcraft, different people will want to. It's not a deck of tarot cards. Although even with tarot cards, you can do a lot of things with tarot cards. You can meditate with tarot cards. You can read tarot cards. You can do spell casting
mhm,
with tarot cards. Candle magic with tarot cards. So there's a ton of things. Visualizations with tarot cards. So, you whatever you can imagine, there's your limit.
mhm. And there's a lot of people that aren't listening live. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think, but you can, and I think so, you can pull a card and whoever's listening to it, it's for them. Does
Okay,
that make
Marla. Well, you
sense?
know what? We're going to do this together. Why don't
Okay.
you? This is how we're going to pull one.
Okay.
Give me a number, a number under 36, from 1 to 36, and we're going to pull a card using that number.
17.
I didn't hear you.
17.
17. Okay, hold on. I gotta pull it out. Almost there.
Mm-hmm.
And they're shuffled, by the way. They're not in order.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we are, card number 17. Not card number, the cards are not numbered. This is just card number 17 of the shuffle deck that I have.
Yeah. Good.
We have here, plants for magical and spiritual allies. And I'm going to read the card.
Mm-hmm.
Among the plants believed to radiate magical and spiritual protection are aloe vera, betony, cactus. I mean, think about that one. Foti, garlic, hyssop, lavender, mint, mugwort, onion, rose, rosemary, rue, St. John's wort, snakeroot, vervain, wormwood, and yarrow, as well as any plant that displays thorns or other defensive characteristics, such as brambles or stinging nettles. Surround yourself with living plants or create a spray using their flower essences. And if you think of stories like Sleeping Beauty, when everybody in the palace becomes vulnerable, the thicket of brambles grows around the castle. And often people take that as very threatening because, those thorny plants, people look at them as scary, but actually it's protection. It is protecting the people inside the castle. And if you think about, like, if you wanted a guard dog, often people like scary looking dogs, or what people perceive as scary looking dogs, to be a guard dog because you want to prevent a problem. The cute little
Mm-hmm.
white fluffy dog. I mean, people don't perceive those as guard dogs. It won't deter anyone. And
Mm-hmm.
so to start to look, start to see, people, seers, seers, they're called that because they see. And
Mm-hmm.
practicing the magical arts will really, I find, refine all your senses. Your hearing, you'll hear what people say to you, and seeing what's in front of you. And so when you look at plants, look for that defensive plant. Look, do they have thorns? Do they have prickles? Is it like rue where if it brushes against your skin, it might raise a rash?
Mm-hmm.
Is it, or is it a lush flower that
Mm-hmm.
beckons you to come closer? And
Yeah.
there are flowers like datura that are so beautiful, but I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's a trap. It's a trap because it's very seductive. They can be quite dangerous, but that's not necessarily a defensive plant. You want a plant that will have the same, the equivalent of the Doberman.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I am here to defend you.
Yeah. Now I got come two people want a bull. Do they have to give you because he gave a number between one
Well,
and
I need to know which card. I mean, I could just pull the top one off, but
well, he said 32.
32. Actually, that's great. So hold on one second. 36, 35. Okay, let's see what card 32 says. Card 32. Hold on. I gotta turn my little flashlight on because my eyes are not what they used to be.
I can
Kuan Yin, that's a beautiful one. Her name means she who hears the cries of the world. Buddhism's Lady of Compassion. Kuan Yin is a bodhisattva, meaning that although she achieved nirvana, she refuses to leave this world as long as anyone is suffering. Kuan Yin has vowed to come to the aid of anyone who calls out her name in their hour of need. It's sufficient to call her name to seek her protection.
I liked that one. I
Yeah,
read that one today.
yeah.
Uh,
Although you can, I mean, if you are a goddess lover, a statue lover, it's easy to find images of Kuan Yin. She's very popular. There's nobody too obscure in this deck because I wanted to keep it accessible. And I mean, these are, the sacred beings in here are all beings that I have experience with, but you can get statues of Kuan Yin. She plays nicely with other spirits, and she is a very a very formidable defender.
Okay, one more. Kathy said number 36.
Ah, excellent. That was iron.
Mm,
Iron, the metal iron. Iron is widely considered to be the most protective of all metals and banishes most malevolent spirits. Merely being in its presence reputedly enhances, increases, and invigorates your own personal magic power. And here are some suggestions of things you can do with iron, although you can certainly do other things too. Wear iron beads or other jewelry, hang an iron horseshoe over doors. You can also put, I mean, I've had an iron horseshoe under my pillow at times. So
oh,
oh yeah, under your pillow, under your mattress, under the bed. There are plenty of things to do with it. Place an iron horseshoe or other iron implement under your bed to provide spiritual protection as you sleep. Some people, I like I like the roughness of iron. There are people, iron is used to make steel. And so
yeah.
there are people who will say you can substitute steel, and I leave that up to you.
I think of strength when I think of iron.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Mm,
magic iron because so much of it, iron is a lot of it is it derives from meteorites.
mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
there's very, very ancient use of iron as a magical instrument. Iron workers is among the first magicians and magical practitioners. So it's ancient and powerful.
Mm-hmm. Now, if somebody wanted to have a thought, just not a free-for-all number or a pull. So if somebody in the chat room has something in their mind, and I have somebody in my mind about who
Mhm.
it is for, so she could be thinking about it, and that she's thinking about something. I'm
Sure.
okay. So
What do you
yeah,
want me? What exactly do you want me to do?
um, I'm
I don't
just
need
want
to know anything from anybody. I just need to know what I'm supposed to do.
okay. She didn't give a number or anything. It's
Do you want
Dinah.
me to pull the top one? Yeah, we had the last
Sure.
one, so let me pull the top one.
I did that for her today, and I want to see. It'd be interesting if it
Okay,
came back the
hold on
same
one
kind
second.
of thing. Okay.
The writing is small and my eyes are
I have my
clogging.
magnifying glass out.
I have the little flashlight on my phone.
There you
Um,
go.
Boundary of protection. Arrange blue crystals and gemstones strategically around any room, area, being, or object that requires magical or spiritual protection. Cast a circle around yourself or create a crystal grid beneath your bed to guard you while you sleep. Some examples of blue crystals include azurite, celestite, kyanite, lapis lazuli, larimar, sodalite, turquoise, and if price is not an object, sapphire and aquamarine. And bluestones, because I don't know what this is about. When I think of, and I'm just sort of extemporizing here, blue crystals to me um, also have to do with communication because they are the crystal if you have issues with speech or communication or saying something that the thing that's trapped in your throat sometimes, it's that blue bead on your throat chakra, so it's on the throat. And I mean, I have, I was used to be a very, very shy person. It's very hard for me to speak in public. And you'll
Mm,
see, like, if you see me speak in person, I'm often wearing a blue necklace. And that's why. I mean, other than I like the color and, there are other, aesthetic reasons, but blue for communication, for saying what needs to be said, for being able to articulate carefully when you need to, or for finding the courage to speak sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's get.
It's also for spiritual healing.
Mhm. This is all good. So we're getting really close to getting out of here, but before it's too late, where can people find you, your books, the new deck, or
Oh,
anything else you want to talk about?
my books can be found wherever fine books are sold, online, bookstores. I always encourage people, please patronize your local witch stores. It's just a hard time right now. Everything is so expensive.
Mhm.
If you have a local witch store, go support them. They are the hearthstone of our community, and they are so crucial, and it's a hard time for so many of them. I have a website currently that's a little damaged. So if you look at it, it'll look like it's broken. But if you kind of scroll down, it, it's kind of functional, and it will be repaired soon. I am on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. Um, I'm not that hard to be found, and I hope the deck is helpful, and I hope the book brings joy.
Yeah, I do too. And I'm just cute. I mean, I think these cards are so nice and the book is so good. I mean, I've been happy today and yesterday and the day before when I got
Oh,
it.
I'm
Yeah.
glad. I'm glad.
And I'd like to say that to everybody that she edited my book and she's still
Yeah.
living here. She's still living here. I don't know if she got gray hairs or anything, but thank you very much for doing it.
Oh no, it's great, Marla. It was an honor and a pleasure to work with you. The book, I'll give it a plug.
Oh,
Magic for All Seasons. You can pre-order it already. It's a great book, beautiful cover. I was a little
yeah.
jealous with the cover, I gotta tell you. Um, and it's wonderful.
Yeah. And it was funny, those two reviews you sent over both
Yeah,
had they were talking about great grandma Sophie. And
yeah,
this is people don't know great grandma Sophie, but it she's my great grandmother. She was a witch and she never got a chance to give anybody her things,
yeah,
information. So the book is dedicated to her. And I'm not kidding when I'm saying this, but anytime you read that book and you feel like somebody's looking over your shoulder, it's going to be
yes.
her. Yeah.
I think based on what people who have read the books, early readers
Hmm.
have said to me, I think Grandma Sophie is really the star of that book, and she is
Hmm.
very, people tell me that they do feel her spirit.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So I like that. And I just got goosebumps. Um, but yeah, but anyway, I want to thank you. Really, it was really easy. And well, for me, it
Oh,
was easy. For you, not so much. Um, but you can you don't have gray hair maybe, and you're talking around, and yeah. So thank you very much.
thank you, Mo.
And as always, it's a pleasure to have you stirring the cauldron with me. So thank you for stopping by. And let's thank everybody who's listening in. And until next time, everybody, blessed be and merry meet again. Good night.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Stirring the Cauldron with Marla Brooks. Please join us again next week at the same time for another great guest and more cauldron stirring. Any rebroadcast or other use of this program without explicit permission is strictly prohibited. Copyright 2024. The Mysterioso March by Kevin MacLeod is licensed through Incompetech.com.